Most eStream figures look really impressive in their press photos, so we're really excited to get our first eStream figure and see for ourselves just how good their stuff is. This is the 1/7 scale version of Demon Rem in her crystal dress. She's just a recolor of the original Rem crystal dress. I really prefer this Demon version since there aren't too many figures of this version of her, as well as just the overall evil vibe is just cooler. This whole diorama with all the clear bits, it's just under 34 centimeters tall, but the clear effect parts flare out quite a bit, so width-wise, she's actually around 40 centimeters, so you'll need a big spot to display her properly. She comes with no accessories whatsoever. All the parts that come with the figure are required. I guess you could leave out some of the front effect parts and the holes wouldn't be too obvious, but I don't think anybody would realistically do that. Since the base and the effect parts are such an integral part of this figure, I'm going to go through it more in detail. The flat base has swirls sculpted in, and I like how they gel well with the water effects on the front. The two-tone color is a nice touch, but eStream didn't put the purple where the crystals go up in the back, which is a weird choice. The front effect parts are nice and have a very liquid feeling sculpting to them. It's actually more matte than the plastic used on the base. One complaint I have is that these effect parts come off super easily. I guess because of the type of plastics they had to use. Any slight movement or touch and some of them just pop right off. Oh, and their color is quite different to what is shown on the prototypes. The back crystals are pretty basic, just very straight line sculptings. They look good, and the nice two-tone colors is very well done. They're also quite useful for using to move the figure around since they come attached to the base rather securely. Rem's hair ribbons are actually really nicely done. The smoky plastic has beautiful flowing sculpting and perfectly painted red details. The accessories or effects or whatever those sharply sculpted things are, and trust me, they're very sharp. They're painted in a metallic purplish pink, which contrasts well with her hair. The hair itself is nothing special. It has decent detail and some separate strands here and there. I do enjoy the purple tips on her hair, I guess to show the purple-ish lighting reflecting onto her hair. But I definitely think eStream could have improved the hair a lot by putting shadows between the strands. Right now it looks a bit too one-dimensional. The face looks pretty close to what we saw in the prototype, and I have to give them props for getting the eyes bang on. I love that crazed look, something that's quite different to the usual Rem figures. I do wish that the skin tone is redder though, like the prototype. The skin tone now is a little bit too yellow, and it stands out a lot more against the red and purple backdrop. Moving to her clothes, the collar looks great with those perfectly painted red highlights. The rest of the milky clear plastic has natural flows. Her sleeves look amazing with the multiple layers and color of the clear plastic. The flow of the sculpt is actually quite amazing, especially at the end of the sleeves. But her arms are not actually fully modeled inside the sleeves. You can kind of see this if you use a really strong light to shine on the clear plastic. Not a big deal, I guess, but something to note if it bothers you. Her hands are pretty nice, with good details, but nothing we haven't seen before. Her right hand holds that morning star, which is just slotted into her hand. The chains are just plastic, and the holes in the chains aren't holed out, which is disappointing. I know they can't use a real metal chain since it won't stay in the air, but I expected better here. The morning star itself has the expected detail. It's painted very nicely, and is held onto the clear effect part with a tab. The main part of the dress is actually just reasonable. It doesn't have crazy amounts of fabric folds sculpted, but looks good still with the very nicely painted details. I do like the clear frills and rows though. It also shows her ample chest, which I'm pretty sure is more substantial than I remember in the anime. Her back is mostly blocked by her massive dress, but we can see very minimal shoulder blade sculpting, and that's really it for anatomical details. The plastic gold chains on her waist look, well, plasticky, since it doesn't have any shadow painting at all. The rest of the dress is the star of the show. It's floating in the air with natural, beautiful flowing curves throughout. The layering of the clear pieces is extremely impressive, and the red detail painting on the patterns is perfectly done. Even the bottom layers have details painted, which is true attention to detail. Peeking out the under layer of the clear skirt is a bit of Rem's thighs. There's not much detail here, as expected. In the back, you can catch a glimpse of her dark, metallic purple underwear. It's a really weird color choice, but I guess eStream just decided to use the same paint as the stockings? Talking about the stockings, they're fine. It's just a smooth sculpt, but with good painting and shadows. The top of the stockings in red is really detailed, but I'm not sure what type of detail that's supposed to be. Are they flames? The shoes don't have too much detail, but painting is a nice gradation from red to purple. The little red clear roses do look nice though. This Rem figure costs more than 35,000 yen at MSRP, and that's not including the shipping for the giant box. This figure looks impressive, especially from afar, but a lot of that pizzazz is really from the effect parts and not the figure itself. The figure itself has decent detail, but I would say it's nowhere near as good as something like, a Kadokawa figure. That's why it's such a tough decision on this one. I like it as a rare Demon Rem figure, which looks striking, especially if you have some lighting on display, but the price is not really justified. So I guess the conclusion is, get it if you really love Rem, or Demon Rem, but I'd put that money elsewhere, like on a quarter scale binding figure, especially given that Rem is quite fragile, and I don't know how well the clear effect parts will hold up in the long term.